So, Peter, want to draw back to the previous discussion regarding Anna Thompson, and as of today, I noticed that Nottingham have acted to review their fixtures, the number of races that are coming up in the next month, and I gather you've lost three Thursday meetings as the track, I think, compensates for being a little bit light on the graded strength. And I produced a chart which I hopefully will be able to show now, and it's a rough estimation of the graded strength of each of the tracks. And it's the thing about graded strength, as anybody knows, is that it's quite a complex issue in that grading strength literally change day by day. You'll get bitches come in season, dogs get injured, then there'll be a trial session, more dogs come off and more dogs go on. And as I said, there could be 10 or 15 different by tomorrow. There's also, as we look at the list, going from left to right, the traps that need to fill. In other words, basically the number of meetings or the number of races that each track is looking to stage each week. There's the open traps. Now, the open traps, they don't come into the overall figures because they are additional, and we are perhaps going into that detail a little bit more. The most interesting part of the chart is the right hand column, which is the percentage of racing strength. Now, going back to when I was in a racing office 40 years ago, there was a rule of thumb, I think racing officers still work to today, that you need to work to around 120%. And that basically means you need 20% more dogs in a week than you currently have on the strength. That gives the racing manager a little bit more flexibility in terms of grading the dogs. And where we, as I said, to go back to the open race issue, we'll take Romford as an example. Now, Romford, it says, is working to 104.8%. However, Romford will also had 12 opens, 72 dogs on Friday. They don't come into that consideration for that figure. So Romford will actually be writing to a larger figure than 104.8%, even assuming that is absolutely accurate. But I had a bit of a workout. For example, last Friday, of the 72 dogs, I think there were 44 that were local dogs that were running in those opens. So I had a bit of a rule of thumb guess that it went up to about 114%. Looking at those figures, Nottingham just over 100%. Now, again, Nottingham had some opens. They included some graded dogs, but it's not difficult to see that there's an awful lot of those tracks are skirting under the 120%. And going forward, that could prove a problem, given that we've had, looking at two new tracks due to start racing, certainly within the next 6 or 7 months. And according to my calculations, that will probably be 600 dogs that are going to be moving around. Now, we don't necessarily mean that they will have to be found, because SIS and ARC are not producing any more races than they were previously. But you may find that some of the tracks will be demanding, including the new tracks, will be demanding dogs from some of the tracks on the list. So, I mean, one of the first points to make, and we spoke previously, I think Rachel Corden has acted very, very swiftly to see the situation at Nottingham, which is primarily, I think it was always reasonably tight, and then of course with Anna Thompson handing in licensing, I noticed today that ARC have revised their fixtures going forward for the next week, and Nottingham to lose 3 Thursday meetings for at least the next 3 weeks. Do you think that will ease things?
Well, it's bound to ease things, isn't it? If you're losing meetings. I mean, we don't want to lose meetings because obviously people want the dogs running the Monday nights or majority open races most of the time. So, if you're doing open races on a Monday, that just leaves 2 fixtures. So, we have got some new trainers coming. So it's a catch-22 with the running situation, Floyd, because you don't want too many dogs at a track, because if your dog's not running, you're not getting paid for it. I don't know whether other tracks are different to that. I don't know. But I would have thought quite a few. If the people's dogs don't run, they're not going to get paid. So they want them to run, but they don't want them to run them too much. So I would probably say I can understand that 120 sort of mark, because that's a happy medium, really. That your dogs will get a run, and if there's 5 weeks in a month, sometimes you'll run 4 times. If there's 4 weeks in a month, 3 times. You're covering costs, so it's getting a happy balance. You look there and you see Henlow at 154, 164, is it? There'll be a lot of dogs not getting run there. So people, owners or trainers are covering that cost. So you've got to get a happy balance. The good thing about, you look at the Henlow 164, that there's plenty of dogs to go to Oxford and Mildenhall from there. So there is the capacity what Kevin's got for doing that. So it's a tough one, and I think it's going to get tougher. People have said for quite a while now there's going to be a bite soon, where there's not going to be enough dogs around, and is it starting to actually come to roost? It does look like it is.
Yeah, I think again all this ties into what we were talking before earlier about Anna, and it's not even a case. To a certain extent, I'm interested in the breeding and looking at how breeding figures are down. And the number of greyhounds that were born in 2020 was considerably down on the previous couple of years. So bearing in mind 2022 will be the year of the 2020 whelp. That's when most of them will sort of come to the fore, and then a little bit in the following year. But that will happen. But also, when you're looking at the trainer situation, it's all very well for the greyhounds to be out there, but if you've got to pay £1,000 for a grader and you've got to do the bond. I mean, we've talked about this previously. How can an average graded trainer that can't get any owners, because most of his meetings are now for the betting shops, how does he manage on the money that he's on to not only keep going but to actually replace the dogs as they get to the end of their racing careers?
But it's going to be basic economics, this is, Floyd, at the end of the day, and it's demand and supply. And for many years, there was too much supply for what was demanded by the tracks. Now it's going to be the other way around. The demand from the tracks is going to outweigh the supply. And when it's that way, then the costs come into it. And, if there is a shortage of supply, the price always goes up. So, the people that manage to stay in the game or are in the game should be expecting that, the value of what they are supplying should rise.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great irony, and nobody would wish it, is, of course, Anna leaving actually makes the rest of the trainers a little stronger. I mean, I think she had I did some figures earlier on. I think she had the biggest kennel strength at Nottingham. You were the second, and then I think Jill Llewellyn third.
I don't know. I think it was starting to get nip and tuck. I know my kennel strength has come down. I would have thought Jill Llewellyn and Anna was very close on a par nowadays. I'm not exactly sure. I don't take too much notice of other people's situations. So
I did do my homework like a good journalist should, and I worked out that it was that order. It was Anna, then you, then Jill Llewellyn. Overall in the year to date. But then I think you three had more runners, or virtually as many runners between the three of you as the next 6 combined. So
don't forget, Jill was off for a while, so them figures would be skewed a little bit. So
yeah. But as I said, well done, ARC, and for addressing the situation soon. Because I was looking at just by coincidence, looking at a video today with. From one of the Australian vets talking about just minor injuries. I just found it on the internet today by accident, saying that the week to 10 days is just something we've all known in dogs. We don't need the Australians to tell us, but week to 10 days is just a nice little period of grace for those little niggles, those little bits and pieces that the dogs are picking up. Hence why the Derby has proved popular without having the extra round in the middle of the Tuesday quarter-final round. It's enabled the trainers one run a week to keep the dogs ticking over. So we don't have a lot of scope once we go beyond, a run a week. And as we know, we've seen it in the past. once you start to dip below 100% and you're racing your dogs more often, then it's a very, very quick downturn before you've got hardly any dogs left at all.
Well, I mean, I've got Liam Dowley stopping with me at the moment, and the one thing he wouldn't mind me saying, and I'd never discuss anything anyway, but the work he does on his dogs and, you know, checking them over after they've run, it's so critical to make sure you've got that time in between and you put the efforts from when you've run to your next run, you've got that dog at perfection. You know, that is where the work and the skill and, you know, the class of someone like Liam comes into it. And it really is an iron, how meticulously you go over checking ready for the next run. It's not about the next run. It's about coming over from your last run and getting back ready for your next one. And that's what the big thing is.
Yeah, I've always believed that one of the greatest signs of a great trainer is how will they patch their dogs up. Because to a certain extent, much of the dog's natural ability gets it across the line, but it's the trainer presenting that dog in its tip-top condition every time he goes to boxes.
Well, I mean, I've talked to the big lad Mark, and we've chatted after we've seen Liam at work and saying, you know, we see graded dogs running, and something takes your eye, and you think that's run well, and you think, I'll have a few quid on that next time, and might not be my own, it's somebody else's dog, more what we're talking about, and then it will come out next time and it'll run a poor race, and we think, oh, what's gone off there and everything, and more often than not, it's because, you know, something's been picked up or it's strained itself or nothing, or it might be tired and not enough's done to it to bring it back to its, you know, its best from what it did the time before, and it really has been an eye-opener.